All right, to watch this video for Friday, December 15th. Can't believe it's Friday already. My God, I love day trading. Back when I used to have to actually do labor for a living, Friday never came this quick. So the SPY, I want to say, well, it looks like it's rolling over. High volume the last couple days, but we're still right at or above the 8-day moving average. Still sitting basically at all-time highs, so there's just nothing to be alarmed about. We can just go ahead and build a normal watch list for tomorrow. Real quick, couple highlights from today. MRNS called in the chat room. Whoops, right through 850. You ready for this? So gapped up a little bit. It was already on our overnight watch list, and then we kind of switched it over to our gap playlist because it gapped up a little bit. Sellers came in, and I love when sellers come in on a gap and those sellers fail. So we got along right about 850, and look what happens. It ends up going to over 980, and it's, again, I keep showing these over and over. We try to find entries that were green right away when they trigger, right? So you don't have to worry about averaging down or wondering what to do, or if it doesn't work, I don't hang out, just so you know. I get back out and then look for the next one. But I'm a big fan of inflection point trading with catalysts above, and this is a good example. Just took off for us, and you know what? Those are very, very comfortable trades. OHGI, I'll tell you why I called this one today. OHGI was not on any list at all of mine, okay? So the market opens, and all of a sudden, and look at this volume compared to, I'm going back, I don't know, what is this, 5 days? So look at that opening 5-minute volume compared to every 5-minute stick for the past 5 days or so. So it caught my attention. I didn't do anything with it. It caught my attention. So I threw it on a chart, right? Because there was other charts that already, that weren't that interesting. So let me just try to let this unfold for you. So then it spikes up right here. First of all, I'm thinking after the volume spike, it's almost round tripped. And I'm thinking, I guess whatever spiked this has been negated or thwarted, or however you want to word it. But then it gets this little secondary pop with a little bit more volume again. So now you've got the early high and you've got a lower high. And then it starts to chop around again. But it's nicely above the open. That volume still interests me. I still think something's up. So I called it long over this consolidation. In other words, over the lower high. 120 with a worst case stop at 110. That's a dime risk. My thinking is if we break this lower high, we might challenge and maybe break through the high of day. And then at that point, the daily chart looks really good. And I also said over the microphone that this is, it's a former runner that does get moving at times. So my idea was 120 with a 110 stop, set it over the mic, and type the symbol in the room in case anyone said, what did he say? I typed in OHGI. Guys, I like it at 120 with a 110 stop. All right? You see the volume coming in, starts to curl up. There it is. I mean, within that same candle, I talk about being green right away, right? Within that same 5-minute candle, we're nicely green, right? The entry, and look at that. Next thing you know, we're taking out the high of day, and I say, hey, this thing's holding up pretty well. And long story short, this went from $1.20 on 10 cents risk to almost $3.40. That's a huge percentage gain. Went to $3.38 actually, 181% move from my entry call with a 10-cent stop. Very proud of that. Now, this is actually on my watch list again for tomorrow. Of course, it's what I call stupid extended, but it's one we want to watch for the next week or so. I'd like to see it come in for a couple days and then give a nice trade. But that one's on the list, and I also showed you MRNS, what we did there. So after OHGI, the next one I want to watch, PIXY. Nothing interesting here at all to me on the chart, okay? But and after hours, I guess they had nice news. It's trading at 465, so it's trading. So we got a potential gap and go here. I guess as I'm babbling, I could see if I can find the float in this thing. I think this is gapping on earnings, by the way. I think it's got. This says 5.8 million in the float, so this is definitely a nice low float potential gap and go tomorrow. So PIXY is on watch. Let me try that again. AMPE. Pretty strong breakout today, but closing well off its high, so we'll see if we can get a red to green, something like that in that one tomorrow. FT got a big pop today, and again, closing well off its highs, but a red to green, maybe around a hole number 2, could possibly become an inflection point with today's high above. So definitely want to watch FT, a really nice volume spike there today. PMTS, again, another unusual volume pop that closed well off its highs, but also well off its lows. Again, probably be looking for a red to green in that one. DCIX, you can't see anything here. If I guess I can do this a better way. If I zoom in, see all this is so consolidated because of all the reverse splits that you see and everything. So it's pushed us down This thing never actually traded at $18,000, but after reverse splits, it looks like it, right? So if I zoom in, remember we had this huge pop from 421 to 28.48 in two sessions. All right, remember that? It's done nothing since. And so now let me switch to 15-minute candles. It's done nothing since, really. But right now it's trading at 6.45. Again, this is 15-minute candles, so I'm going back, what, about 5 days here? It's trading at 6.45 and after hours, I believe, on a Morgan Stanley stake, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see if we also, this has good potential to be a potential gap and go tomorrow, another low float stock. So we're going to watch all the shippers, but DCIX has the potential to, gap and squeeze tomorrow. And again, I'm going to watch other shippers as well. IMUC, now this is a sub-dollar stock. I love the gap up above all of this trading, but it could not get going on an intraday basis. Normally when I get a solid red candle after a gap up, I'm not really interested in it for a couple days. But this one is still trading above a ton of trading, and it did have good news. So we might get, we might get a nice setup tomorrow. I really want to watch this one really going forward for the next few days, but that one might surprise us and give us a long tomorrow. YTEN ran from 218 to 867 on an intraday basis 4 days ago, and you've got 3 days lower on much lower volume. Pretty good setup for a snapback bounce tomorrow. ELTK had this move. We had a good trade in this one yesterday. Had this move from 360 something to 582 on an intraday basis, and then kind of a narrow, low volume, boring day. I love it over today's high, over 475, but we'll see how it trades. We might get a better entry. We might get no setup at all. All right. Everything I do is on an intraday basis if I'm going to find an entry. Because remember, my specialty and what we teach in our course is entries that should work right away. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of trading. When you're right and when you're wrong, you don't hang out. You move on to the next one. All right. EYES has had a huge move from, $1.20-ish to almost 260. I don't know, over the course of a couple weeks. Now we're 2 days lower, declining volume. It did hit the 8-day. This is a pretty good setup for a bounce tomorrow. It's definitely found some buying over the last couple weeks. So I like this pullback. And then lastly, XNET, which had a huge move and then, looked like it was going to roll completely back over. And then a nice pop over the last couple days. I like the fact that this is a red candle, right? So on the gap up, sellers came in. And you know what? It's holding up pretty darn well. So this looks really good over 18. So I'm going to keep XNET on watch as well. We'll find some other gappers to add to the list as well in the pre-market tomorrow. And that's it. Have a great evening. And we'll see everybody on Friday.